So Netflix is on the cusp of buying Warner Brothers, as you've probably heard by now, and it's causing a lot of uncertainty about the future of the movies. The biggest thing is that Ted Sarandos, the CEO of Netflix, has in the past expressed a desire to shrink theatrical windows, which is just the amount of time a movie plays exclusively in theaters. Advocates for longer windows want them set at like 45 days, which for reference is what Disney gives its movies before moving them onto Disney+. Ted Sarandos has called for that number to shrink to 17 days, and that kind of makes sense for a man whose company kind of inherently relies on people not going to the movies and choosing instead to stay at home and watch Netflix. But that might also make you ask, why is that company trying to acquire a company that benefits greatly from longer theatrical distribution? Like, aren't the incentives of these two companies kind of inherently not aligned? Yes. But they're not going to let that stop them. It's worth asking at the outset why Warner Brothers is even selling at all. Because in between all the headlines about the bidding war that's happening over Warner Brothers, it would have been easy to miss that Warner Brothers was kind of on fire in 2025. They broke a theatrical record by opening 7 consecutive movies over $40 million. The 7-hit combo of a Minecraft movie into Sinners, into Final Destination Bloodlines, into F1, into Superman, into Weapons, into The Conjuring Last Rites was an unprecedented run. And some of those movies were even good, too. So if Warner Brothers is clearly capable of profitability, why are they so desperately seeking a merger? Well, they're trying to slap some duct tape on the gaping wounds left by their other 18 mergers. This company has just been constantly morphing and shifting since like the 1970s. They merged with Time in 1990 to become Time Warner. Then they merged again with AOL. Then they were eventually swallowed up by AT&T. And then they merged again with Discovery Media. And now Netflix is looking to add their name to that incomprehensible corporate charcuterie board. One thing the current merger is looking to address is the fact that all these other mergers have left Warner Brothers with $53 billion in debt. Never mind the fact that Netflix is going to have to take on another $59 billion loan to make this merger happen. I'm sure it'll all work out fine. It's interesting because even before the merger announcement, Warner had floated plans to spin off their unsuccessful cable TV networks into a different company. It seemed like maybe they had come up with a plan to streamline their operations and refocus their efforts on just like making good products for their consumers. Or, you know, just do what didn't work before, but different this time. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Brothers, stands to make $500 million if any merger goes through. He could care less if the building burns to the ground as long as that building is outside of his field of view. Permanently injure theatrical distribution and undermine a huge source of this company's revenue, all the while adding more debt, which already makes the company so hard to manage in the first place? Well, I hardly think that's my problem, not this cartoon loan shark stuffed a $20 bill into my pocket. I want to take a minute here to explain why movie theaters are so important and what we stand to lose if Netflix becomes the dominant player in this industry. Because I feel like half the people I see online have the opinion that theaters deserve to die because they just can't compete with the comfort and convenience of streaming. But the people disagreeing with them are offering these kind of vague Nicole Kidman speeches about how we come to the movies for magic. It's not the theater experience that cannot be replicated. Home entertainment systems are good and affordable enough that for a pretty reasonable amount of money, you can get a theater tier watching experience. Movie theaters are important because of the relationship they establish between us and the art we consume. It's good that there's a place we can go where we do nothing but sit in darkness and focus our attention on this piece of art that someone made. It doesn't have to be this big contemplative thing. Sometimes the art we're focusing on is a giant monkey fighting a giant lizard. But then the lights come up after 2 hours and the people you came to the theater with go, that was interesting. And then, you know, you might talk about the movie for a little while you walk back to your car or grab something to eat. And then maybe the next day at work you bring it up with a coworker and you have just like a little 30-second interaction about this piece of art that you both experienced. Those shared experiences are facilitated by the existence of a public space where consuming art is the thing you're there for. When you watch a movie at home, it's so easy to be distracted by your phone and, oh, let me just go flip my laundry, I'll pause this and come back to it. And yeah, sometimes we want that. Not everything we watch has to be done with 100% intensity, but I think it is equally important to have spaces where you can go to experience something at full intensity with no distractions or interruptions. Where the only thing you focus on for a little while is the creative vision of the people who worked so hard to make this thing for you to see. Netflix seems to have a completely contrary vision for movies. Because like any algorithm-driven platform, their priority is not making the art that appears on their platform have the highest impact on the consumer. They want your TV to be on for the longest amount of time possible. They frankly could not care less if the art that makes its way in front of your eyes has any impact on you. It just has to serve as background noise soothing enough that you renew your subscription for another month. I don't have like data to confirm this, but my suspicion is that the truly passionate filmmakers out there are doing it because they want to, for a few hours, monopolize their audience's attention. They spend all this time crafting characters and a story to put them in, and the music music and visuals to properly convey the emotions they want to induce in their audience, because they want the audience to feel something and think about the ideas and the characters they spent all that time constructing, not for all those choices to swim in the background while you scroll Instagram reels. And I'll be clear, I also like second screen content sometimes. I'll throw on a movie I've already seen or a TV show I've already watched while I play TFT. It's not necessarily a problem that we've grown used to multitasking as it applies to art, but I'm also grateful for the existence of a space for movies to play where it is publicly frowned upon to be distracted like that. And Netflix doesn't seem to care about that at all. Yeah, they've paid lip service to the idea that they're going to maintain all of Warner Brothers' theatrical releases through 2029, but it seems like the people in charge of this company kinda don't know what they're talking about when it comes to what makes movies successful. The chief content officer of Netflix has said that Oppenheimer would have been just as culturally impactful if it had just been released on Netflix. Sure. And again, their CEO has openly called for shrinking theatrical windows to 17 days to match what consumers want. And if you think shrinking theatrical windows will improve the quality of the movies that we're getting, I think you're just wrong. The movie successes of 2025 were overwhelmingly big franchise-driven IP. Every movie in the top 10 was either a sequel, a live-action remake, or based on some other existing franchise or intellectual property. Despite the fact that everyone claims to be tired of sequels and reboots are the most reliable way for studios to make money. Audiences claim they want to see new original stories, but do new original stories make money? Yeah, sometimes. The easiest way for an original movie to make money is to just have a super low budget. Good Boy, the dog horror movie, was made on a $70,000 budget and made $9 million. That's an ROI that would make David Zaslav cream his jorts. As production and marketing budgets start to climb into the millions, or the tens of millions, or the hundreds of millions, it gets harder and harder for original movies to break through, but it is still possible. I'll use two very big budget, high profile examples from 2025 in Sinners and Weapons. Both of these movies were incredibly original and profitable, and they both leveraged different facets of internet culture to thrive. Sinners, with a budget of around $100 million, brought in $367 million and pulled it off with an incredibly unique blend of genres and music, allowing hype for the movie to blow up on social media. It was a good sign when I had been excited for Sinners since the first trailer dropped at like the end of 2024, and then in March, right when the movie comes out, two of my friends who really don't follow movies at all were like, hey, so what's this Sinners movie I keep hearing about? And then we went and saw it together. Weapons, with a $38 million budget, made $268 million and had a similar cultural reach, I think mostly because of Amy Madigan's show-stealing performance, but also because the marketing for this movie built up a lot of intrigue. They very deliberately did not reveal too much about what was going to happen, just using that really creepy image of all the kids running into the dark to generate curiosity about this movie. So while it is harder for original movies to be profitable, it's clearly possible. And what did Sinners and Weapons have in common? They created FOMO for people who didn't see them. If you didn't see Sinners, you're not going to understand all the TikToks of the Jack O'Connell dance or people thirsting over Michael B. Jordan. What are the people around the water cooler going to think if you're the only one who didn't watch Amy Madigan get shredded by a school of children? Pretty cringe if you ask me. Sure, it's easy for people's attention to get pulled in all sorts of different directions in the streaming age, but when something does capture the attention of the social media masses, it has the potential to be a real cultural phenomena. So what can studios do to help create that FOMO? Carve out a place in time and space where people have to plan a little block in their day to go experience that new piece of art. You go out to a movie that all your friends have said is so good. You're in a space dedicated to the enjoyment of that piece of art. It's gonna stick in your head more. It's gonna feel more unique. If you just plopped Sinners onto HBO Max, sure, it probably would have been the #1 movie on the platform for like a week or two, but it's so easy for things to get lost in the sea of content teeming just below the surface of your smart TV. How many times have you heard a friend tell you about some insane new show they just started watching and you're like, oh wow, yeah, that sounds really good, I gotta check that out. And then you don't. You'll get to it when you get to it, and then you never do. I do this all the time. It took me until October to watch Andor, and Drew Gooden recommended it in 2023. But if everyone around you is talking about this great new movie and there's one way to experience it, yeah, maybe you have to carve out some time and plan a fun little afternoon where you make an event of going to see this great new movie. Over-availability of content does not make the content more culturally impactful. It makes it less. And I think that's why there's been a resurgence on TV of shows releasing weekly installments or batches of episodes and abandoning the binge model. When there's time specifically carved out each week where we're all excited about something, we talk about those things more. I had like 7 weekly discussions with my close friends about The White Lotus Season 3 and what all the characters were gonna get up to. This was not the kind of seed I thought was going in this blender. I looked forward to the new episode every single week. It took up so much space in my head in a way that I feel like it would not have if I could have just watched them whenever. So if you want more original movies, you should want spaces for them to be exhibited. Stifling pathways for original movies to succeed is such a hilariously corporate thing to do, in that it is the shortest-sighted strategy for making money. Because even though the studios made a lot of money off of big IP this last year, all these IP-driven franchises are becoming less and less lucrative. Yeah, Jurassic World Rebirth made $800 million, but the last two made $1 billion. Mission Impossible continued to backslide in profitability. And the general air around a lot of these blockbusters was just kind of like, The fuel that you need to make fun, energetic blockbusters is new talent, and you're cutting their legs off while they're still learning to walk. Ryan Coogler. It's this dude's vision that gave us Sinners. But before he could do that, he had to make Fruitvale Station. Fruitvale Station lets him make Creed. Creed leads him to Black Panther, and now he has enough experience and reputation to put out this beast of a movie that carved out its own little niche in our culture. Now he'll get to go do whatever he wants and carve out even more space in our culture. Supposedly he's doing an X-Files remake, which sounds sick as hell. Zach Cregger knocks it out of the park with Barbarian, and then he gets to go on and make Weapons, and now he's gonna go and make a Resident Evil movie, a franchise that seems like nobody has really been able to crack yet from a quality perspective. What I'm saying is, even from the greediest and most cynical corporate mindset, where all you care about is just churning out big-name IP to lure people into the movies, you should want a pipeline that gives creators a way to monopolize people's time and attention for a few hours. Their original successes are going to fuel the creation of the massively profitable IP that you so desperately crave. You don't get the Dark Knight trilogy if there's no way for Memento to blow up first. But the industry is only one side of it. Even in a world where theatrical stands strong, you still need an audience to come see your movie for it to be profitable. And there's a very prevalent opinion percolating around the internet that there's just nothing worth seeing anymore. Hollywood just doesn't make them like they used to. This opinion, which is summed up pretty succinctly by this Reddit post, is as easy to find as it is wrong. This is not an objective measurement by any means, but I happen to keep meticulous records of my opinions on the quality of movies, and I happen to have seen 207 of them in 2025. Here's a histogram of scores I assigned to movies that I watched last year that were released in 2025. More than half were 5s or higher, which is my metric for at least somewhat enjoyable. Now that doesn't guarantee that if you saw all the same movies, you'd find the exact same number of enjoyable ones. But I hope it shows that there isn't a catastrophic lack of good things to watch. So how can this be? How is it that movies are still good, but everybody feels like they're not? Well, there's an entire side of the movie review space on this website that I think might have at least something to do with it. The Critical Drinker is a creator here on YouTube that I started watching a little more than 2 years ago, and he's become very popular in recent years. When you get your own man-carrying thing video, you've got to have made it at least a little bit. I want to preface this by saying, I actually kind of like some of this dude's videos. When he talks about movies he likes, his reviewing style is very fun. After posting my Best of the Year video, I was naturally drawn in by his, and then that made me go back and watch his Best of 2024 video. But his conclusion that he comes to in this Best of 2024 video, the conclusion that you will hear a lot if you watch a lot of his videos, is that it's just a rough time for entertainment. He included 5 things he liked in 2024. The rest of it is about his least favorites and then his, things that were really underwhelming, which, is all movies now. For reference, here is a list of 25 good movies that he didn't talk about in a year that he calls a pretty rough year for entertainment. My issue is not that he didn't bring up any of these movies in this video. His Best of the Year videos usually just do his few favorites and least favorites, and then he talks about other movies throughout the rest of the year. My issue is that throughout the rest of the year, my man puts out a non-stop stream of videos about how movies these days are just incompetent. Oh, do they even know how to make good movies anymore because they fucked up Ghostbusters Frozen Empire? In his positive review of the movie Falling Down, the drinker says this:
Jesus Christ, remember when movies had this level of thought and complexity put into them?
They do now, brother. You just gotta watch something other than corporate slop. Ugh, remember when food had flavor and complexity to it? Those were the days, am I right, fellas? You're eating McDonald's. Yeah? The meat comes out as like a sludge. Yeah? Have you thought about eating something else? Well, I want something else, but Wendy's hasn't been so great lately either. You could try Arby's, White Castle, Sonic. The food industry doesn't really make food for a guy like me anymore. Do you want some of... And don't even get me started on Burger King, although it won't be long before those woke motherfuckers start calling it Burger Queen, because everybody knows they wouldn't let something so juicy and voluptuous be a man anymore. In 2024, out of the 88 videos that he made, 54 of them were about shit he did not like. Even in the videos where he talks about a movie that he likes, a lot of times he makes it like a caveat, even in a year of underwhelming whatever the fuck, here was this one good movie. I tried to be as objective as possible in assessing this, but if you watch a lot of his content, you really get the impression that every movie out there is just phoned in corporate garbage or woke trash. There is a lot of corporate garbage, but there are also so goddamn many great movies. In choosing a year's worth of The Drinker's content to go back and watch, I chose 2024, a year that I felt like had so many weird, interesting movies, mostly because I wanted to go back and look at some that I think this guy might have overlooked. Drinker. While you were busy making 10 videos about how woke The Acolyte is, here's 10 movies that I think you specifically would have liked. Immaculate. The Drinker loves him some Sydney Sweeney. I mean, he'll take any excuse to throw footage of her into a video. I assume this is because he's just mesmerized by her acting abilities and is just hungry to give her the recognition that she deserves. In that spirit, I think you'd really like Immaculate. Sydney Sweeney goes hard in this movie, and the ending is kind of insane. Challengers. Men love sports movies. So I thought thought we just needed to throw a classic sports movie in there. You're gonna love this movie, Drinker. Just one thing though, when Zendaya comes up to their room, you're gonna wanna close your eyes. For no particular reason, it's just they get into this really long and boring conversation about the merits of various pieces of antitrust legislation. Not really worth your time. When you see Josh O'Connor whack Art's erect penis, you should know they've just about wrapped up. All jokes aside, this is a movie that knows how overdramatic it is and leans all the way in. The soundtrack is a personal favorite of mine. It's so dynamic, so intense. It keeps you locked into every single moment. The story winds its way through the lives of all three of its main characters, constantly keeping you off balance. The ending is ambiguous in the best way. Give this a chance. I think you will not regret it. The Bike Riders. If you want a story about stoic men, you found it. This shit is a whole saga. It sprawls. Austin Butler and Tom Hardy play these two bikers with an almost father-son relationship. Weighty, emotional stuff. Long legs. I didn't have too much to say about this. It's just a good horror movie that you might like. Strange Darling. After each of the chapters in this movie, which play out of chronological order, you will say, oh, I think I get it. You do not get it. One of the weirdest, most surprising stories I saw in 2024, where the characters' relationship to each other, the bedrock of what you think you know, is constantly changing. Piece by piece, badass music meets super polished visual style meets industry inside look. Come on. Smile 2. I included this mostly because I just wanted to show that the sequels and reboots are shit take lacks nuance. Here was a movie that I said, why does this exist? And then it just scared the shit out of me for 2 hours and hits you with an ending that just makes your mouth kind of hang open. It does not make sense 100% of the time, but I think you'll have fun with it. Y2K. This is a horror comedy about if the Y2K disaster actually happened, wrapped around a teen comedy about coming of age in the 1990s. Full of 90s music and pop culture references, and it's just goofy. It's not trying to pull off some emotional brilliancy. It's just got like 70 throwaway one-liners that are funny as hell. Drinker, if my math is right, I think you are precisely the exact age demographic this movie was made for. You do have to watch Rachel Zegler though, which I know is like waving a red cape in front of a bull. In 4 to 6 hours, the Drinker will be crashing through that wall. Monkey Man. You want the kind of precise, detailed action movie they just don't make anymore? They did make it. Set against the backdrop of Hindu myth and the Indian caste system, it's a rush of boiling masculine anger that keeps its foot all the way down on the gas until the credits roll. This movie is so for men, you actually cannot let women watch this. They will fall in love with Dev Patel. Please, I'm begging you, learn from my mistakes. And then I would close it out with The Return, a beautiful adaptation of the last part of the Odyssey with just a phenomenal cast. Juliette Binoche, Ralph Fiennes, like, you're not gonna find better actors for a story like this. Except maybe, in like 6 to 7 months. It's slow and thoughtful, but it's about a man who doesn't feel like he's worth anything anymore, reclaiming all the things that war took from him. I just think you'd really like this. This is not me being the indie film friend. I'm not telling you to go to festivals or shop the Criterion Collection or anything. These are movies that I saw on a random afternoon at my movie theater in 2024, and they're all so cool and interesting. There's such a variety of stuff that plays at the movies right now, but it's so hard to get anyone to come see anything. Not the least because a lot of them have the impression that every movie is out to get them, is out to scold them, is out to pound the message into their heads. Because there's a cottage industry of creators on this platform making bank off of getting them angry. The Drinker is just one tree in the forest of these channels, on the side of less embroiled in the culture war stuff, if you can believe it. The people he hangs out with are like fully embroiled. Nerdrotic, a frequent customer at the Drinker's open bar, posted 50 videos in 2025, and literally all of them skew negative. God, imagine having the time to make 50 YouTube videos, and you spend all of it just doom posting. At least the Drinker will make like an occasional review highlighting a hidden gem. He does cool deep dives in a few of his series like Production Hell, which I always enjoy. I think he's pretty funny, and he's built a very amusing internet character. And he's actually made some of his own fictional stuff, which is cool. We love seeing YouTubers get into filmmaking. My point in bringing up the Drinker was not just to pluck some low-hanging internet fruit. If you're a regular viewer of channels like this, which a lot of people are, these channels are wildly popular, you're constantly hearing how this art form is at the lowest it's ever been. There's nothing worth watching. There's nothing for us guys anymore. A final point on the Drinker that I think gives some insight into this. When he wanted to include K-pop Demon Hunters on his list of favorites for 2025, he felt the need to qualify it like this. When he wanted to give a positive review of Wicked Part 1, he felt the need to qualify it like this.
And here's the funny thing, it's actually pretty good.
Drinker, in all your talk of how Hollywood hates men and doesn't make movies for them anymore, is it possible that part of the problem is that your scope of what men are supposed to like is so narrow that you're closing yourself off from a lot of movies that maybe weren't made for you, but that you might have enjoyed anyway? I think I sort of agree with your idea that blockbusters aren't made for men anymore. As other people have talked about, the way that movies are made now means that all of our blockbusters are just these mega-budget spectacles that need to appeal to every demographic to make money. And I can absolutely see how that would sting for someone with such a deeply ingrained connection to some of these franchises. These things that had a little place in your heart now feel like they were written without any regard for whether you like them or not. That sucks. I'm not saying it's good that fans are feeling betrayed by their favorite franchises. I'm a Halo fan. I know the feeling, brother. So maybe it's time to branch out a little bit. Don't just go see the corporate franchise slop. Watch weird shit. Expand your horizons a little bit. Don't tell yourself you're not the target audience for something. Just go see it. I try to think of myself as the target audience for virtually anything, as long as it's good. I also understand that not everyone is as willing to tolerate garbage in the search for good movies, because you do have to sift through some garbage to find the hidden gems. But if you review movies for a living, and your take is, Hollywood's done for, is there even anything to look forward to in 2026? Yes, are you kidding me?
What do you want? Because it's everywhere.
You like sci-fi? Project Hail Mary. The guy who wrote The Martian also wrote another book about all the stars in our galaxy dying, and we gotta send Ryan Gosling on a space odyssey to fix them. Disclosure Day. It's a new Steven Spielberg sci-fi about confirming the existence of aliens and the effect that that would have on our society. Dune Part 3. There's a 12-year time jump between the last one and this one, and Robert Pattinson is the villain. That's all you had to say. Sci-fi has been kind of underrepresented in the last few years, so I'm really excited to see a resurgence this year. You like horror movies? Primate. A family decides that keeping a chimpanzee as a pet is a good idea, and then finds out that is a fucking terrible idea. Psycho Killer. The writer of Seven is giving us another serial killer mystery. You can see Scream 7 if you want the most microwaved studio horror you'll ever see. Lee Cronin, the guy who made the last Evil Dead movie, is making a reboot of The Mummy. Historically, that has not gone well, but we'll see. Maybe they can bring back The Scorpion King. That was pretty scary. Hokum. Adam Scott stars in a Damian McCarthy movie. I need that. This dude made a movie called Oddity in 2024. And if you know, you know. Flower Vale Street. The dude who made It Follows is making a sci-fi horror starring Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor. That's all you had to say. At the end of the year, we get Werewolf, the new Robert Eggers movie. I cannot wait to find out how werewolves are horny too. If Willem Dafoe is not the werewolf, Robert Eggers, what are we doing here? But my most anticipated horror movie of 2026 is Undertone. How is it that this trailer is scarier than any Blumhouse horror movie that I saw in 2025? The host of a podcast that talks about supernatural happenings gets sent some sort of mysterious audio file, and after listening to it, she is now being haunted by some sort of invisible audio creature. Sound design is probably the most crucial weapon you can deploy in a horror movie. I think a horror movie built around terrifying sound design is just a great idea. And not to get on the Nicole Kidman for a second, but watching this on your phone is not going to be the same thing as watching this in a movie theater, surrounded by terrifying audio. You got kids and you just need a place to put them? Well, in the summer, the studios are going to have you watching the most mind-numbing shit you've ever seen. Minions 3, Toy Story 5, Moana live-action remake, but we got a new Super Mario movie coming in April. If you want to see Steph Curry try his hand at voice acting, you can watch Goat in February. If you want to instruct your children on the horrors of communism, you can take them to see Animal Farm in May. I'm curious to see how they adapt this story for kids. Like, there is some comedy to the book, but also, what's the scene gonna look like where they sell Woody Harrelson to the glue factory? We used to have this book on the back of the toilet in one of my parents' bathrooms, so I would read the entire thing every time I took a shit. Gonna have to fight back some primal urges in the theater on this one. But I don't care if you have kids or not, I better see you out there in March for Hoppers. A Pixar original about a group of scientists who figure out how to transfer human consciousness into animals, but then this girl uses it and ends up like starting a war between humans and animals. We are all seeing this. It is not up for negotiation. If you like Charlie XCX, oh, you are gonna have a year. She's getting into her film score era. She started releasing songs off the Wuthering Heights soundtrack, and I see the viz. I've seen this trailer in a theater, and these low synth harmonies are gonna go so hard. Fans of the book are already mad at this movie, but I can't read, so that's not an issue for me. On top of that, she's writing music for Mother Mary, which is an A24 musical horror romance starring Anne Hathaway about a singer who gets like pulled into some kind of satanic ritual. I don't know what the fuck is going on here, but I'm in. And then on top of that, in just a few weeks, we get The Moment, which looks like an A24 mockumentary about the Brat Tour. Charlie is having a year, to be sure. If you like terrible movies, Chris Pratt gets put on AI trial in this one. Looks really good, guys. The Bride is like a Gangland-inspired Bonnie and Clyde movie where Christian Bale is Frankenstein, and then he reanimates Jesse Buckley to be his crime partner. I love this grungy aesthetic they went for. It's sick as hell. Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die looks like a sci-fi comedy action movie about time travel, sort of in the vibe of Everything Everywhere All at Once. They're making a Michael Jackson biopic, which is probably going to go hard as long as you can build a partition in your brain to put all the allegations inside of. They're making The Devil Wears Prada 2, which like one person watching this video is probably super excited for. And then we also get The Drama, an A24 romantic drama about an engaged couple who find out some disturbing information about each other right before their wedding. Robert Pattinson and Zendaya, shocking twists and turns. I'm there. We're getting 3 superhero movies this year, and I'm kind of excited for all of them. Supergirl, this just looks like it'll be fun. I'm not expecting anything groundbreaking, but I'm curious to see how the new DCU gets fleshed out a little more. Spider-Man Brand New Day, I'm here for the Punisher, and whatever character Max from Stranger Things is gonna end up playing. And then the year ends with Avengers Doomsday, which I think is gonna be a goddamn disaster. Remember how at the end of Thor Ragnarok leading right into Infinity War, you see the shot of Thanos' ship looming and you know what shit is about to go down? Yeah, that's what it felt like to have properly set up a movie like this. We knew what the villain wanted and where our main characters were like a year in advance of the movie. In this movie, not only do you have to fully establish Doctor Doom and all of his motivations, you have to fully introduce all the X-Men you're going to use. You have to answer questions like, what's Shang-Chi been doing for 5 years? And you have to go pull Captain America out of the past to get him into the events of this movie. This is just gonna be a bloated, convoluted mess. Never in my wildest dreams did I think they would get so desperate they would actually crack open the Resurrect Steve Rogers emergency kit. Cannot wait to see this and then write a 90-page essay in the parking lot of the movie theater. 2026 is cool because there's a few true originals getting the big budget treatment, like this one called One Night Only that was #1 on the blacklist a few years ago. In a society where premarital sex is only legal on one night out of the year, 2 people have to scramble to find partners. It's like The Purge, but for fucking. It's the splurge. Tom Cruise is also in a new original movie from Alejandro Inarritu called Whoa, easy there. I don't think I'm allowed to say that. And even the movies that I would file under unnecessary look good. We're getting a new 2D animated Avatar movie that looks at Aang and his friends as adults, created by the original showrunners. Yeah, I'm down. I didn't think we needed this, but I'm down. The Social Reckoning, a sequel to The Social Network. It's not going to be as good as The Social Network, but that's because The Social Network is one of the best movies I've ever seen. They lost David Fincher as director from the first one, so it's not going to have that same intensity to it, but Aaron Sorkin makes good shit too. The cast is super stacked and the premise is interesting. Trying to examine Facebook and social media's role in our current lives is not the worst idea for another foray into Mark Zuckerberg's life. Consider me intrigued. And then we're also getting another Hunger Games movie, and I hate to admit it, but yeah, I'm kinda into this. The last one we got was barely about the Hunger Games, so hopefully they can do better this time. Well, that's like every movie in 2026, right? There's nothing I'm forgetting. No massive, incredible movies I haven't mentioned yet. Yeah, that'll probably be pretty good.
This year is shaping up to be a turning point for the movies. None of us can really do anything about what happens to Warner Brothers. What we can do is show up to the movies this year. If you saw something in this video and you said, that looks interesting, go see it. Mark it on your calendar. Take your friends to it. If it's good, recommend it to people. If you like the movies, this is the year that you need to make that known to the people who run this industry. I don't want to see anybody complaining about Pixar making nothing but sequels if you don't go see this movie. As with many facets of our lives, we stand at the edge of an institution that we can feel eroding from underneath us. But our scattered and chaotic internet society is pulled in many directions. Lots of people online seem to be celebrating the death of theaters. Some think streaming is just more convenient, and some are being relentlessly beaten over the head with the idea that Hollywood hates them and has no original ideas anymore. And while we bicker, the fucking CEO who insists that he has immense respect for the movies, but who actually just wants your TV to be on long enough that he can charge it another month's rent, keeps chiseling away under our feet. And we're gonna wake up in a world where it's no longer economically viable to show a movie in theaters, where there aren't public spaces for us to fully dedicate our time and attention to a piece of art. And all our movies are made by the company that made this TV show you all spent 4 weeks complaining about, and also Hot Frosty. You'll be hearing from me a lot this year as I attempt to highlight some hidden gems that fly under the radar, but my overall message this year is, go to the movies. Take a chance on something you normally wouldn't have. I'll see you at the movies, brother. Get out of here.